But when it comes to, I guess, having deep and meaningful relationships and good connection with people, we need to be able to listen. We need to be able to hear other people's perception of things and see it from their point of view. And sometimes this means getting out of our own head and getting out of the way of the other person and taking a step back and actually listening to what they are saying. So when it comes to perception, you need to understand that your truth and their truth might be two different things. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're wrong or that you're wrong. It just means that you guys are seeing things in different lights. G'day, legends. Let's try it again. G'day, legends. Welcome to another episode of the Interchange podcast. You have me for another solo episode today. And before we go any further, I do have something small to ask of you. So, as you know, with podcasts and all this type of thing, especially in the digital world that we live in, the more engagement we get, the more followers, the more, what's the word I'm looking for? Subscribers that we have for our channels, the more attention that we are able to get, the more traction we can get, which means the bigger and better we can grow this podcast. And in turn, by we, I mean me. And in turn, the bigger and better guests I can bring for you guys. And that's going to be able to allow me to deliver more value for you. So if you haven't already, please go and hit that subscribe button and please share this with just one of your friends, because as you know, the more people that watch this, the more people will get value out of it and the bigger impact this podcast INTOCHANGE is going to have. And that's what I'm here for, is to have an impact and to make a difference in the world. Right, formalities out of the way. Something that I think is very peculiar, and it's so funny to watch this from the outside looking in, especially with clients that I work with a lot of the time, is perception. Right. So, and what I mean by this is that your way of seeing something and my way of seeing something might be completely different. And this will come down to a number of different factors, including the stories we tell ourselves, experiences we've previously lived through, um, insecurities, beliefs that we have, our morals, our values. There's so many different factors that add to this. But I think that it's really important for us to sort of try and find middle ground, because a lot of the time, especially when it comes to, an argument you might have with a partner or even a discussion you might have with a friend, you might see something and explain it from your point of view, and that other person has no idea what you're fucking talking about. I'm sure that you've all experienced this where, let's say that, John went out on Friday night and, he got so shit faced. But if you ask John, he probably told you he had the best night of his life. And it probably just comes down to, your beliefs, your morals, and your experience of what actually went on. And also, if it comes down to being shit-faced, what the person can actually remember. That might be a big part to play in it as well. So it's really important to understand everyone's perspective, or at least be open to hearing other people's perspectives. And this is something that I believe is very important when it comes to communication, which I'm actually going to do another episode about, just talking specifically about communication, because I feel that in today's world, we lose so much communication through the digital side of things. But when it comes to, I guess, having deep and meaningful relationships and good connection with people, we need to be able to listen. We need to be able to hear other people's perception of things and see it from their point of view. And sometimes this means getting out of our own head and getting out of the way of the other person and taking a step back and actually listening to what they are saying. So when it comes to perception, you need to understand that your truth and their truth might be two different things. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're wrong or that you're wrong. It just means that you guys are seeing things in different lights. And once again, there's no harm in that. Obviously, there's extreme cases where this might be the case. But to be fair, I feel like this is where a lot of wars have been started. A lot of fights are fueled as well, because perception is something that we don't understand as a human species. We think that because the way we see something, that's the way everyone sees it. But you'll see this, obviously, a great example of this was during COVID. There was like a massive majority of people that were compliant because they were like, oh, if the government's saying this, it must be true. And there was another massive group of people that were like, fuck the government, as if they're telling us lies. There is no chance that I'm putting that vaccination in my body. And then there was this sort of group in the middle, which were just sort of like, okay, let's see how this plays out. I'm not getting involved. I'm not going to take sides. But it created this massive divide between people. And this all comes down to perspective. And in this case, around beliefs or around the propaganda and the knowledge that we've been fed. For some people, they're happy just to hear what they hear from the media and take that as gospel. For other people, they hear something and they go, that's definitely not the case. And the other people in the middle are the ones that go, all right, well, I'm sort of hearing what column A is saying. I'm sort of hearing what column B is saying, but I'm sort of just going to stand here and make my own truth out of it. And I feel like this is where we need to get everyone to. Hey, hello. Sorry for interrupting your podcast, but I just wanted to quickly jump on and tell you about the must have personal development tool for 2023, and it's called the Happier, Healthier You Journal. So I'll take you back to about 6 years ago. I'd just gotten out of jail for the last time and was starting my journey of personal development and growth. There was heaps of gurus, heaps of information available, but so much so that it became confusing. So I came up with the Happier, Healthier You Journal to help you to navigate what can be an absolute minefield. From the very get-go, you open the page and it'll challenge you to dive deep with self-assessments, daily activities, and check-ins to figure out exactly where you're at, where you'd like to be. And then from there, the journal becomes the tool to help you to bridge that gap. So to get your hands on this, click on the link below and don't forget to use Interchange 10 at checkout for a cheeky 10% off. I'll see you back over on the episode. This middle part, right? Because I hear your argument, I see it, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I can see there's some merit to it and I can understand why you feel that way. And I can see your argument over here as well. Once again, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I can see some merit to it as well. But I'm over here in the middle. I'm just gonna stay out of this and see how things unfold. I feel like that's where we need to get a lot more people too, because there's a lot of people that are misled because of the media and because of things they read on social media, and they take everything they hear as gospel. Then there's a lot of other people over here that are just like full fucking woo woo, complete out of like society, fuck the system type people. And then there is this middle ground, which is where there's people that are like, okay, cool, I can see where you're coming from, I can see where you're coming from as well, and I understand why you feel that way, but I'm going to make my own decision around it. And that's where we need to start to gather, is to stop being sheeple, stop following these people that are putting this information out there, start making our own decisions and start doing our own research around things rather than just taking everything we hear as gospel. So this is why perspective is such an important thing, because as I said, it has literally started wars. It has literally started fights between friends. It is caused. And this is once again because people can't get a grip of other people's perspective. They can't see things from other people's side of the bridge. You know, if there's an argument, right, there's your story, my story, and then there's the truth somewhere in between. But if instead of being your story, my story, and we're against each other, we can explain things in a way that's like, look, I hear what you're saying, and I know it wasn't your intention, but this is how I felt around this situation because this happened, and in my past, this is how things have gone. And then if you have the other person going, look, I can understand that. Now I actually see why you might have reacted the way you did. And I'm not condoning the way you reacted because there's some work there for you to do. But I can see why that might have taken place for you. And so then how can we, both of us, come to an agreement that this won't happen again and set expectations for each other? How can we be open and have that line of communication with each other so that this doesn't happen in the future? These this is the way that communication should take place, but unfortunately it doesn't. And unfortunately, because of our perspective, because of our view of the world, because of our beliefs and all those sorts of things, we get a skewed vision of what is actually going on. So ask yourself, if there's things going on around you that seem to be chaos, is that actually chaotic? Can you find something beautiful in it? Or is that just your mindset that's leading you to believe that? If you're always finding that you're in relationships with people and it's always someone else's fault, it breaks down, whatever it might be, maybe take a step back and have a look at yourself in the mirror and see if there's something you need to heal within yourself. Because you might be stuck of the belief that there's nothing wrong with you when really there is. And that's okay. That's a realization we all come to. But when we can get on the same page as each other in relationships, whether it be a relationship, a friendship, a business a relationship, whatever it might be, when we can see things from the same place and come to an agreement, that is when true connection and true communication and a real strong agreement and bond can be created. So let me ask you, are you someone that is able to see things from other people's perspective? Or do you just see it through your own lens, the lens that you're looking at the world through, whatever it might be? This is why, someone might see something happen and go, oh, look, that was a great lesson. And another person might say, that was the worst thing that ever fucking happened to me in my entire life. It just comes down to the lens on which you're viewing the world through, or your perspective. So quickly ask yourself, like, are you doom and gloom, or are you someone that sees the glass as half full? Are you someone that puts the blame on everyone else, or do you look for how you can take ownership of things? Are you someone that sees the world as a miserable place, or are you someone that sees the world as a place of opportunity and abundance? Answering these three questions will probably give you an idea of which side of the seat you're sitting on, whether you're the glass half full, glass half empty, negative, positive, or doom and gloom, or wealth and abundance, how you're viewing the world. And if you can get a clear idea of where you're at and you're not happy with where that is, well, then from there you can start to make changes. And this is actually something that I do within my coaching, is help people to sort of work through these arguments and these conversations that they have within themselves, and help them to be able to see the world from a different light, and shift their paradigm and their beliefs around how things actually are, because those might not necessarily be how they actually are. And this is something that I've experienced myself. This is something that I've experienced with many clients of mine, is that the way they're viewing the world is actually skewed for whatever reason. And that's something that we need to change. So if that's something you're struggling with, feel free to reach out. I am here to support you in whatever way I can. Even if you just want to have a chat, you know where to find me. I'm on Instagram. I am on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn now as well. TikTok. Send me a message. Send me an email. Drop me a comment. Whatever you need to do. But be sure to jump on and get in contact, because I'd be happy to support you on this journey. Anyways, legends. So that's a little bit about perspective and the lens in which you view the world. And like I said to you, ask yourself those three questions and have a look at where you actually sit as far as it goes for the perspective that you have of the world. Peace.